In this video I'm going to be categorizing my shooting styles by focal lengths. Join me, roll titles. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James at Micro Four Thirds Guy with you once again, and in this video it's a bit of a follow-up to my last video, the one where I said about not doing E-word. I'm not allowed to say the E-word anymore, where I'm not allowed to talk about how focal lengths work on different types of camera format. We're going to stick to Micro Four Thirds, but what I've done is I made a little list up here because I'm going to have to refer to how I see a lens in the future, so use this as a bit of a reference for my future videos. But let's use the focal length that we have on Micro Four Thirds systems only as to what sort of shooting style or what sort of category I put it into, because if we do look at the at how it works on other formats, then we can easily put this into perspective, because we don't need to know the actual numbers, we just need to know what sort of style it's going to produce. And talking about styles producing, I'm trying this. People ask me what sort of what lens I'm using and what camera I'm using for doing these videos. I'm trying something different today. This is used my 45mm Olympus f1.8 on f1.8 on the front of my GX8. So I don't know if it's going to work or not, we'll have to try it. However, let's have a look back to lens categories. I'm going to split this into two groups. I'm going to look at the primes first, and then I'm going to look at how I categorize zooms. And these are the categories that I tend to use. You can use your own if you want to, but these are the categories that I tend to use when I'm doing videos and when I'm looking at cameras and looking at lenses for Micro Four Thirds. I don't really worry what it's like on another format, because it doesn't matter. Because if I compare it to one format, it's going to be different on a third format. You see the idea. Starting on the primes, ultra wide. I would say that ultra wide lenses are probably about 6 to 12mm. So we're looking at 6 to 12mm on Micro Four Thirds. That's what I class as an ultra wide lens. Wider than that, smaller focal length, I'll be putting almost into the fisheye. In fact, it's probably definitely into the fisheye category. Wide angle is about 12 to 60. Now, these aren't set in stone figures, they're approximates, and as you get towards the extremes, they'll go to different categories. And just because something's in one category doesn't mean to say you can't use that lens for something else. It's how you decide to use it. But this is how I tend to categorize the lenses when I'm shooting. A standard lens in the prime thing on Micro Four Thirds for me is in the 20 to 30mm range. Of course, we've got 25 slap in the middle of that. I'm still going to refer to nifty 50s, by the way, because that, although it is a term which is used across other formats, I think everybody understands what I mean by a nifty 50. It's that standard lens which gives that characteristic sort of field of view, which is supposed to be very similar to what we see ourselves. So I'll still refer to nifty 50s, and that's right in the middle of 25mm. So, short telephotos. To me, that's a 30 to 55-ish, 30 to 60-ish lens. Again, as I say, don't worry as it gets to extremes. I'm not going to go down to the 1mm, and if you get the wrong millimeter, you're in the wrong class. That's not what I'm talking about. It's to give a guide and to give an idea. So I'd say 30 to 55 is a short telephoto, and that's also something I'll refer to as a portrait lens. And when I'm on about portrait, I'm on about a little bit bigger than the view you got here. I'm on about sort of down to the torso and the head, if you're shooting vertically. And that to me is a nice sort of thing when you're shooting from about 6 feet, about 2 meters away, to get that sort of that half body length and the head nicely in. That's what I'm talking about, that. And that's where I tend to shoot an awful lot with this lens, the 45mm, because it just does that perfectly. Telephoto lenses run about the 50 to the 100mm on Micro Four Thirds is what I class as a telephoto. And that's just the thing, you're getting that little bit of extra reach. It's starting to push you so you can get that little bit of extra reach, so you can get the compression coming in and be able to use it in that sort of way. And that's what I'd be using if I was doing headshots. I've got a 60mm f2.8 Sigma lens which I enjoy using, and that's great for doing tight headshots. Something like this is a good tight headshot for me. Now, as I said before, this is a little bit wrong on here. It's not giving the upper body, but if I was to turn the camera vertical and shoot in portrait mode, you'd have my upper torso. So a 60mm would be more zoomed in than this. So on a vertical, I'd be getting mainly a headshot. Super telephoto. This is the next sort of category up, and that's the 150mm and beyond. Now you could go into ultra telephotos, whatever you want to do. This is what I'm quite happy calling them, though. Super telephotos, a 150mm and beyond, because that's giving us a real long reach. And when you're using things like, you know, a 400mm lens or something like that, that's a huge lens on a Micro Four Thirds camera. It's really giving you some incredible reach. So that's what I'd be doing them. So again, ultra wide 6 to 12, wide angle 12 to 20, standard 20 to 30, got a nifty 50 in the middle of that, short telephoto 30 to 55, telephoto 55 to 100, super telephoto 100 beyond. And that hits the primes nicely. For me, you can put your own categories on, I don't mind, you use your own categories, I'm quite happy with that. But this is how I can refer to them when I'm doing videos in the future, so you'll have an understanding of what I'm talking about. And you can do your own equivalents if equivalence is important to you. Let's look at the zooms, because the zooms are harder to categorize in that sort of way, because zoom lenses hit various categories in one, and especially with the modern zooms where you're getting some of these super zooms which will do across 3 or 4 categories, it's hard to put them into an individual comment, but I've tried the best I can. So a 7 to 15-ish super wide zoom, that's getting a really wide angle, ultra wide equivalent and a super wide equivalent when we're talking primes, and that's getting us into the thing, but not into the fisheye, but it's getting this really broad angle of view, very shallow, very wide depth of field, of course, being wide angle lenses. 12 to 45, well, 12 to 45 I'm putting as a standard zoom, and that's the sort of lens that you're getting on the kit lenses. Of 12 to 42 is a common kit lens, and you know, that's hitting that standard area, and again hitting the nifty 50 focal length round about the middle of it. We also get some super standards, what I call super standards. One of my favourite lenses is my 12 to 60 Lumix, and that's what I class as a super standard. It's taking the standard lens, standard zoom, and taking it just that little bit extra, either up or down, or both in the case of the 12 to 60, because you're getting that extra couple of millimetre at the bottom, and that extra, what, 18mm at the top, and that makes quite a usable lens. So it's a super standard to me. We then get on to our 35 to 100, that sort of category, and that's putting me into a telephoto zoom, or a short telephoto zoom, whichever you want to do, but that's a telephoto zoom to me. That's given us our sort of classic lines of longer zoom lenses, which used to be the two sort of lenses which fit into the categories, and the in the older days when we're talking about other formats. So the 35 to 100 to me really is a great telephoto zoom, or a short tele. We get the 100 to 400 area. I show up the 100 to 300 very often. I've done a review on the Lumix 100 to 400, and of course there's a Mark II coming out of that very, very soon. And that to me is the super telephoto zooms. That's one that's going to give you all that ability to get in close if you're doing birding, or if you're bird watching, or if you're doing sport or something like that. It's the sort of lens which you're going to give you the ability to really get in close if you want to, and have that zoom capability. We've also got the other category, which is the last one, which I'm calling the super zooms. Not the super telephotos, in fact, just the super zooms. And they're the things like the 14 to 140, which I use an awful lot, or the 12 to 200 from Olympus, which gives you a huge range from super wide, from wide all the way up to super telephoto. These really are incredible lenses, but they're so hard to categorize on that. So a super zoom to me is the one that's going to cover a very large gamut of lens ranges. So what about you? What do you class your lenses as? Let me know in the comments below. But basically, what I've told you here is approximately where I'm going to be referring to my lenses in the future. Now, as I say, it's not set in stone. This is my particular standard. You want to call them something different? Please do. You know, really would welcome that. But to me, this is the way I think of lenses on Micro Four Thirds format. In fact, this is the way I think of lenses on all formats. I just changed the numbers for the formats. But once I've got that in my head, I don't need to necessarily look at the exact figures of a lens and say, that's the same as on a different format. I don't do that anymore. I just look at what I've got. Where does it fall in the category of my Micro Four Thirds? Is it going to be a usable lens? And then I'll use it from there. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Are these usable categories for you? If not, let me know what you'd suggest instead. If it's something that you would use or be happy with, again, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to see that. Now, these wonderful people who I always refer to, fabulous people, are my Patreon patrons. And they're the people who help keep this channel able to be produced, because they give a little bit of support on the channel, and I thank you all for it. Below, if you'd like to buy me a cup of coffee, I always say that, but you know it's to help to do the channel, but I get through so much coffee, it is probably right actually. The coffee keeps me going. But there's a PayPal link below and a super thanks button beside that. But mainly, give me a thumbs up and let me know that this video has been useful to you and that you've liked this video, because that gives the YouTube algorithms the opportunity to actually promote it to more and more people, and they can see what they think. Thank you also to all the comments which have been made on my previous videos. I don't necessarily agree with all of them. What sort of world would it be if I was to agree with everything? But when I get constructive criticism from people, sometimes it makes me think in different ways, which is good. Sometimes it makes me think that I'm actually right. Sometimes it makes me realise I'm totally off the ball and wrong. So let me know in your comments below, because they really are useful. Thanks for giving me comments in the past. But until the next time, keep on taking your camera out, keep on having fun with your photos. See you. Bye bye.